Hey, Los Angeles. Are you looking for unique 4th of July plans for you and your friends or family? LA's greatest rivalry returns to Rose Bowl Stadium for a July 4th edition of the El Tráfico soccer matchup as the LA Galaxy return to their original home to defend their turf against LAFC. Last year, a record crowd of over 82,000 fans were on hand to witness the Galaxy victory. That's July 4th at Rose Bowl Stadium. Guaranteed fireworks both on and off the field and a celebration for all of LA. LA Galaxy versus LAFC, the Rose Bowl edition. Tickets at lagalaxy.com/tickets.
Welcome back to Now. No Opportunity Wasted. I'm your host, Angelica Ross. Now, for those of you who can see this video, as you can see, I'm in my recording studio, actually, which I'm now doubling as my podcast studio. So also, I made a little switch up. I am not going to be releasing the full video episodes on YouTube. You will still be able to get clips, but I'm going to be saving the full episodes for those who are going to be subscribing. I will let you all know about how to subscribe. Basically, those who are in the winner's circle can get access to those full episodes and subscribe for as little as $4.99 a month to have access to the full episodes, as well as a lot of other content that I'm going to be offering. But it's just a lot of investment, as you can see in the video. I've upgraded my cameras. I've upgraded my microphones. We got lights. We got a lot of stuff, but it costs money. And, I want to save that kind of extra layer for those who are willing to subscribe and willing to invest in what I'm investing in. You know what I mean? So it just becomes a lot. I heard Amanda Seales talking about how difficult it was to just deal with the video aspect of things. I'm sure whether it's just the logistics as well as the cost of it all. So I am running my own video cameras. I am running my own lights. I am many times editing my own videos, but thankfully I have some help. Jared, thank you for helping to edit our podcast episodes. But I wanted to kind of give you that little disclaimer as we get things started. It's Monday, June 9th, 2024, and today's word from Buddhism Day by Day was a great reminder for me, saying, quote, "In any field of endeavor, making a vow is the foundation for achieving something great. If for whatever reason a person gives up halfway or backslides, his or her commitment hasn't been based on a vow. Half-hearted desire doesn't amount to a vow." End quote. Speaking of vows, this weekend, I had the honor and the privilege of celebrating my friend Hope Giselle Godfrey's wedding vows with her husband, Xander. Her friends and her family gathered in Washington, D.C. in a reception-like celebration where we got to watch the literal film that is their love story. And it didn't just include footage of their stunning ceremony that was beachside in Cancun, but it also showed some intimate moments with her now husband that was by her side as she underwent a biopsy. Now, I did know before that moment that Hope was going through something with her health, and she told me that she was being seen by the best doctors and she was surrounded by love, but that it was something that she wanted to keep private for now. So when I saw that in the film, it was just so beautiful to see this man loving on my friend and standing beside her through some real tough times and showing that their vows are far from half-hearted. Now, my vow right now might not be marital, but I do have a vow as a Buddhist to prioritize world peace and to help others discover their limitless potential and value. I vow to move in integrity. And with that being said, today I want to offer an apology. Now, I've said many times before that if and when I am wrong, I will apologize. Now, although there may be many aspects of my approach that are valid, I want to also highlight where I went wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the negative energy that I unintentionally created by harboring such harsh criticisms and judgment of those who have not been speaking up about the multiple genocides happening around the world. My intention, of course, is to inspire and motivate you to take action and to help you stay connected to your humanity, to humanity in general, and to recognize the suffering of others as well as your own, and not just facts of life or necessary evils, but as challenges that we can overcome together. But I realize that I can't force or shame folks into caring or taking action. And in doing so, my intentions got lost on some. And the impact is me pushing people further away. And that I definitely do not want to do. It's true when they say when times get tough, you really find out who your real friends are. And of course, there were signs before things fell apart. But, I would be having fun with friends and spending time dancing, singing, or we'd be at adventure parks. But when I brought up anything serious, the response was, oh God, I got to start traveling with stupid friends who don't want to talk about politics and activism. Now, I know they weren't saying, that their friends were stupid or, with some kind of backhanded compliment, saying that I'm a smart person and that I'm engaged and I'm aware of what's going on in the world. And I know that they weren't really calling their friends stupid, but just that their other friends were okay with keeping things light. People say things like, it's not that deep. So when my friend said this to me on multiple occasions, I eventually started to get the message. And the truth is I was hurt. I am hurt. I thought I had friends who could do both. And to be clear, I do have friends who can do both. So some of my frustration and anger, I think, might have been misplaced. I'm angry at white supremacy, genocide, patriarchy, transphobia, etc., etc. But I'm also bewildered and devastated that I thought I was friends with or in the company with folks that were down for the get down, for an intersectional movement towards liberation, but they're not. Folks have shown that they're either too scared or they no longer see their connection to the things that are happening in the world around them, or that they're actually just more interested in accessing privilege rather than dismantling a system that favors the privileged. Still, with all that being said, I still believe that as a culture, it's not that we need to divest from celebrity culture, but we need to redefine celebrity. We need to develop a better habit of celebrating the good in each other, regardless of your social status or how much money you have. So I'm sorry for any and all negativity that I created with my words and actions. I take full responsibility for cultivating relationships that did not meet my needs. There are so many singers, actors, and artists that I love. Their music inspires me to do the work that I'm called to do. And for that, I am immensely grateful, because their art for me sometimes is a necessary distraction when I need to break away from the battle. And sometimes it provides a spark of joy that makes me dance and sing. And even though pain is inevitably waiting in the wings. So I'm not canceling Beyonce or any of my favorite artists, but I am no longer following any celebrity who I don't have a personal relationship with unless they are leading me somewhere I want to go. If it's just giving cute photos, self-promotion, and selling me things that I don't want or need, then it's just not something I feel I need to follow. I follow movers and shakers who are intersectional with their approach. I follow leaders who know that there are levels to this thing that we call leadership. 5 levels to be more specific. And you can read about those 5 levels of leadership by John C. Maxwell. It's definitely on the list of my recommended reading. But one of the major points that I took away from that book is great leaders help to foster capable people into also becoming leaders. It's not just about them. It's about creating opportunity that other leaders don't. This is the spirit in which I created the Winner's Circle. So if you haven't signed up yet, you can still join the wait list at win.missross.com. I'm creating a close-knit community of people who understand that we can all be winners. There's no need for anyone else to lose for us to win. In the Winner's Circle, I'll be hosting exclusive monthly and weekly webinars where I'm going to share with folks some of the intimate details of exactly how I'm winning in life, including the struggles and challenges. And I'm using that space to share my life's philosophy, lessons, and personal stories so that I can help others see their own potential to win over in their own lives. And in these webinars, I'll offer like these breakout rooms where people can get one-on-one guidance from me. So if you have any questions and want to learn more about the Winner's Circle, you can text me at 1-888-991-TO-WIN. That's 1-888-991-2946. All right. Now let's get into my conversation with this bright young mind that took me by total surprise, y'all. I had no idea what I was in for with this writer, activist, and Harvard College student, Marley Dias, who is the force behind the 1,000 Black Girls Books Initiative. She's the youngest member of the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, Ebony 100, and more, y'all. She's only 20-something, but I was just like, wow. Take a listen.
So great to meet you.
It's very great to meet you too, Marley. I've heard some amazing things about you, and you're only 19.
Yes, I am.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. So first of all, like I have been, actually, first of all, before we get started, the first question I just want to ask you is, how are you doing now? Like right now, how are you feeling?
Right now, I'm okay. It's been a long semester for sure. I think adjusting and coming back is always kind of hard for me, and the Boston weather does not help. But I've been doing well. I love my classes a lot, and I'm really happy to see my friends. So I'm happy.
Is this your first semester or?
This is my fourth semester now.
Fourth semester. So
Harvard,
you are
So I'm sophomore.
Sophomore. Yeah. Oh my goodness. And have you decided what your focus is, what your major is?
Yes, my concentration is a joint concentration in sociology and African-American studies. But under that, I'm studying particularly African-American history. So everything I love combined, which I'm really happy about. So
that's amazing. And that's clear in the work that you've done. And it's really to be entering college, to be just at the start of your concentration and your focus, and to already be published in Rolling Stone and doing articles for Essence, and having your voice be heard as a young person. What is that like?
I mean, I think it definitely has been a lot. And going to Harvard is a place that has really allowed for me to gain a lot of perspective on the work I do and its impact, because as a Harvard student, you already are sort of called to have this, whether we should have this amount of responsibility or not, but we are told a lot that we have responsibility as students that are going to one of the greatest schools in the world to really think about our actions and what we do post grad, but to have already, like you said, been able to accomplish and achieve things that I'm so grateful to feel like I've already enacted my purpose. And I'm not coming to the school to find my passion, but really to enhance it. Gives me both a sort of Superman responsibility at times, and also a lot of pressure to feel like I want to really bring all of myself to the space. So with all the ways that Harvard has been brought up in the news this year, particularly, I think it's been a lot more difficult than last year to balance sort of the responsibilities I have as an activist and a public figure within a space, and as a student who is simultaneously already experiencing these things with a lot of responsibility on how I present myself and talk about these issues. So it sort of has become a double whammy at times, where it's I'm both a Harvard student and a Harvard student who people listen to and have given a platform to already. But it's also something to be incredibly grateful for, and to have the resources to be enriched to say things wisely and coherently, and with so many academic resources to really articulate myself.
Yes, and articulate you absolutely are. So yeah, because I was going to ask you, being a Harvard student, I've had the privilege of going to Harvard and being, sort of hired by Harvard to come speak. And it's so funny for me personally, at my age and just the experience that I have had. I have spoken at so many different colleges and universities, and spoken from a place of authority on life experience. But I personally do not have any degree. I do have a master's degree in Miss Ross that I recently upgraded to a doctorate degree in Miss Ross. And I try to encourage others to have that deep level of kind of concentration, the way you concentrate on your studies that you're concentrating on, to almost know yourself just as well.
Absolutely.
So for knowing what you know about Harvard's history, about, Claudine's experience, and you coming through an institution, but also contextualizing your purpose and knowledge through your young Black, sort of lens. But again, academia, not just Harvard, but a lot of institutions being sort of through white lenses or prioritizing white knowledge and pathways. How are you finding it so far now in your sophomore year, holding on to the fire and the essence of what you know to be what you're fighting for and working towards, while also knowing that you're navigating a system with its own?
I think that is the question. Like, that is quite literally the question. I mean, I ask myself that every day. I feel like the balance of the experiences I've had coming into Harvard and like navigating a PWI for the first time in my life has been huge, a huge task in self-development, and honestly a task in first choosing to be brave pretty much all of the time. Like, the only way you can get through spaces like these is by always trusting your gut, by always saying how you feel and when you feel it and how you want to say it. And then also by self-love, by being intentional about the ways I spend my time, making sure I'm taking care of myself, and trying my best, even though I'm not the best at it, to affirm myself and remember why I came here and the resources that I bring, that Harvard wanted me, like to really employ that mindset. But yeah, like you were saying, the experiences I've had pre Harvard was going to like a predominantly Black public high school. So I was around so many more people who looked like me, but also by being a Black student at a Black high school with like white superintendents and a very white town, I did experience the institutional challenges of being policed as a Black student. So like I had security guards, I had really strict dress codes, I had the real lived experience of what it means to go to a school that is like not able to invest and support Black lives, even though there are so many Black lives like in one space, in one enclave. So to then transition to a place that props up and is built on this history of historically only allowing white men for so long, for more time than they've allowed women and people of color and Jewish people and people of all international like backgrounds and ethnicities, it's really hard to sort of balance that and to recognize that history. But the one great thing that I've been able to do at Harvard is, and the reason why I guess this is the best place, or the place that I'm grateful to be dealing with these tensions, is that we do have such extensive libraries and collections and pieces of these histories that I can literally go to the Schlesinger Library now at Harvard, Harvard's Radcliffe Institute for Advanced Study, and look at Angela Davis's personal papers from when she was a Black Panther. I can look at W.E.B. Du Bois's first papers he ever wrote. I have access to the Zealy daguerreotypes and some of the first pictures we have of enslaved people in the history of the United States. Like by knowing that I have access to this, whether or not Harvard or my administrators or whomever want me to analyze or use these tools in a particular way, even if it's just supposed to be for coursework. As an activist, as a young Black woman who goes here, as a person who will only have Harvard email for 2 more years, I try to take advantage of every single opportunity to learn about my people's history, because this is the one place where they're hoarding it and where so little Black people get access to these stories. So for me to be able to sit and look at the first, actually literally 2 weeks ago, be in the Peabody Museum for Archaeology and look at these photos that one of the former presidents of Harvard commissioned, of some of the first photos we've ever seen of enslaved people, where they're stripped naked. It's for racial science and pseudoscience theories about Black people being originating from different civilizations and different species of humans. But I get to look at those and change, and I can change the purpose of those things. Like by me as a Black woman, like this is the former president's worst nightmare, is to have a queer young Black woman looking at these photos, taking this, like, you know what I mean? Like taking this place, like taking up this space. I feel so honored and feel so brave by doing that. So it is going back to that bravery and self-love piece, where because I'm able to double down on who I am in those moments, and I take advantage of so many of the things that, it's not that you're not supposed to, but like are really just through a particular academic lens, I'm always bringing my full self to being here. And it's hard at times, but that's what that's what makes it work. And that's what makes it enrich me, even when it's not supposed to. So that I'm never going to be afraid of being who I am here.
Wow.
Because they picked me. They wouldn't let me in. They literally would not have let me in. Like, you know what I mean?
True. You to know that you have done the requirements to be in that space and to show up. But, I have to tell you that that's definitely a challenge for most people, is showing up as their full selves always, because they feel as though, especially when you get out of college and into the workforce, they feel as though their livelihood is dependent on them sort of, being able to go along with things.
Mm-hmm.
With you just coming out of being so young, coming out of high school, and now you are of age to be voting for our, next president. And, I think a lot of people have a lot to say about your generation and your generation's maybe willingness or awareness or participation around this. As someone who is close to the situation, because you're in the generation, what do you see now that you're about to be eligible to vote? What is your perception of your peers and the attitudes around the election?
Yeah, I mean, I think this election is incredibly important. I don't think it can be understated how much Harvard students unanimously agree that the decision that is made out of the 2024 presidential election will have an impact on the rest of our lives as Americans if we choose to stay put after. So I think for us, the stakes are high. That's like a very clear thing. I mean, we are in like such a hub of political discussion and discourse, even though there's not that many forums on campus for it necessarily. There's just a lot of like Harvard has just always been viewed as that place. I think it is a myth that Harvard students talk about politics a lot, or like really, we don't really get a lot of places to have these like open discussions as a college campus. It's really more like friend groups and circles in the way that, you do with your friends like anywhere else. I don't think the school is like, we are not particularly trained to know how to handle and discuss these issues better, which is a qualm I personally have with Harvard, is that like, I think it can be difficult for students to always get the space to use all of their words and to like say the wrong thing and to get to explore and play with these ideas, because you have to you come here and you want to like always seem smart and put together, but like we have rough draft thoughts. We have ideas that change. And in the context of an election and all of our first presidential elections, these thoughts have changed so much, especially over what we've seen just internationally in the past couple months. It's really showed to us that that these seeds of white supremacy cut through all institutions and all organizations, that there's really no stone that has gone unturned by injustice and by oppression. And there is no individual in power who, like in today's context, who is willing to transform, who is willing to really restructure, that we are interested in doing the same thing and doing it until it's hurt enough people that it can't be done anymore. And I feel like that's where Gen Z is at right now, is just trying to figure out how we can deal with sort of the despair of coming out of Obama. Like we were all kids when Obama was president, and to think about the joy that we used to have with the government, to think of it not feeling like a circus or like a reality TV show when you looked on the news. I feel like we're trying to figure out how to get our bearings with a world that is not necessarily taking our pushbacks as well as we thought they would. That, the changes we thought we were going to see after 2020, we're now 4 years out and those promises have not been kept. So it's about navigating, having to look back on our childhood and really observe like how much has gone right and how much has gone wrong since 2008.
Okay, picture this. It's Friday afternoon when a thought hits you. I can spend another weekend doing the same old whatever, or I can hop into my all-new Hyundai Santa Fe and hit the road. With available H-Track all-wheel drive and 3-row seating, my whole family can head deep into the wild. Conquer the weekend in the all-new Hyundai Santa Fe. Visit HyundaiUSA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details. Hyundai, there's joy in every journey. Okay, picture this. It's Friday afternoon when a thought hits you. I can spend another weekend doing the same old whatever, or I can hop into my all-new Hyundai Santa Fe and hit the road. With available H-Track all-wheel drive and 3-row seating, my whole family can head deep into the wild. Conquer the weekend in the all-new Hyundai Santa Fe. Visit HyundaiUSA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details. Hyundai, there's joy in every journey.
Since 2010, when we first started to sort of think about and place ourselves in the body politic, is to just learn how to move forward, because there isn't a lot of spaces for these rough draft thoughts. There aren't a lot of spaces for young people to be like, I want to vote for X and X and X, but I feel like they've done this and this and this, and I don't know how I'm supposed to weigh that right now. And I feel like what Gen Z is looking for is a place to do that, is a place to just get to talk to one another, and use our responsibilities in like a healthy community-based forum. And I think that Harvard is working towards that. I have friends and peers that try to promote that through the political organizations they're a part of, but it's something that needs to be embedded into our educational experience now. With just how much is going on in the world, I think we have to take a step back, and make sure that college students are able to acknowledge in their courses what's happening in the real world, because we're having a moment that I think we'll have to tell our children about, of what we were doing and what we were standing for and where we were when these things were happening. And the presidential election will be that. So the fact that these stakes have not been acknowledged, I think, is leaving people to sort of become in echo chambers with friend group circles, with the people that they always talk to, because there isn't a space for these rough draft thoughts. And I'm interested in trying to create that, but it is a challenge and it's something that we need.
Do you find the conversation to be different on campus than it is off? Meaning, like, when you're around everybody that's studying and doing all these things, or like in a certain mindset, maybe the place for that fertile conversation and challenge is there. When you go back home, or coming up in these spaces, and do you find the same engagement from the rest of your peers?
Absolutely.
And as well with your home, like, how has been the conversation of it all been in your home growing up?
I mean, absolutely. I think that the huge perception, like I was saying, and trying to speak to with this sort of issue of not having public discussion at Harvard, is that like there is an idea and stereotype that we are better politically educated and civically educated than most college students. I personally think that is a reflection of what Harvard used to be before it became desegregated. But like that idea was sort of strictly relegated to this school's ability to promote and breed white male politicians. That like once Harvard became opened up to other people, I think there was sort of a cultural shift of not affording those opportunities to everybody. Where like now, like not like I don't think most people, like when I applied to Harvard, I wasn't applying like thinking that it would make me more likely to be like president of the United States, or like give me like connections to be a congresswoman, but that I like am just a nerd who loves books and like wants to go to a school that has a bunch of books.
I knew you
like,
were a nerd.
Yeah,
I knew
exactly. Like
that,
everyone here nowadays, I think like this new sort of what we're actually seeing is just like a lot of people who spend a lot of time like during COVID to really focus on things and got really into whatever they wanted to learn and had the resources to take advantage of that moment and are now at this school. I don't think it's that. I think that we have to really break these myths, particularly with so many things we've seen around college admissions, about who's earned it, who's worked for it, who's whatever. Harvard students promote and have just as great discussion as any other college students about these issues.
Wow.
I think that when we have open and honest conversation, that is good conversation. And I don't think that Harvard promotes that more than any other university. And I think that's important for me to say as a student. And it's not something that I'd like usually say or have great questions that allow me to articulate. But I think that the energy that we see on campus is similar to what I see with my friends at home. If not, my friends at home are interested in doing more. I mean, I think that's a part of, because they've seen me grow up in like my work and what I do, that we leaned on one another to really engage and be able to connect with these issues in real life. Like I was able to go to charity fundraising events and go to live performances and go to fundraisers when I was at home during winter break, in a way that I think that like the stress and rigor of a Harvard schedule doesn't allow us to actually get into Boston and like be doing the work to, engage with these issues. That like when we do voter drives at Harvard, we're doing them in Cambridge. We're not doing them in Roxbury or Jamaica Plain, or like, you know what I mean? In places where like we as Harvard students could actually transform things. A lot of the times we are sort of, just because of how stressful it is to go here, it's hard to imagine like taking those leaps. So I find that like when I'm in like my community circles at home, both because of my own character and just because of the freedom of like not being under this pressurized environment, I actually see a lot healthier conversations towards and about these issues, because I think like the just general experience of like being in Boston when it's cold and like having midterms in 2 weeks and like having dining hall food that you don't want, like that just makes like it harder to have those conversations and harder to carve out time for it. But it is about building a culture of care at this school, and this administration doing more to make sure the students feel protected, that I think can really allow for a transformation in like the way we see social action on campus.
You are a bright cookie. I know you know that, but you're a bright cookie.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. So, okay. So you're studying, you're published, you're doing all these things, you're, being an activist and an advocate. What, because you entered the chat on the conversation about the war raging on Black girls and, Black women, obviously in general. From your perspective, what is the most important thing we need to know about this war on Black girls?
Simply put, the war on Black girls is a public health issue. That's as simply put as I think I can describe it. To me, what we look at and see in Black women, what we see happening to Black women and girls through sort of our legal and political like acts of domination against us, whether that is the affirmative action case, whether that is Obergefell v. Hodges, whether that is the student loan Supreme Court decision, and all the decisions that we have coming up, we will see and have seen time and time again that if we don't take a bottom-up approach to oppression, if we don't look at the people who have been historically marginalized the most, we will never be able to get to their point. We have to start at the bottom and look at the people who have experienced the roots and not the greatest horrors, but have experienced such a continued horrors, continually unacknowledged horrors, and start with those people and continue to, and then develop our policy, our transformation, our new infrastructures with their needs. Because if we get their needs, we get everybody's needs. And when we don't think about Black women and girls, when we make these decisions that last infinitely in history, because we're doing this through the Supreme Court particularly, that cannot be changed as long as these individuals are alive, we have shortened the lifespan. We have encoded stress and racism into the body of Black women. Oof. I feel as though I wake up every day feeling different than how I used to feel before the pandemic, or how I used to feel before 2016. Absolutely. That there is a stress, a cortisol level within our community that takes itself out in substance use and abuse, through sexual health and activity, through eating and obesity rates and access to healthy food, through exercise, as inflation goes up, as all of these stressors go up in our world, and we are continuing to promote legislation that supports the domination of Black women and girls, we will just continue to see negative health outcomes that create poor public health outcomes. That COVID is not over, and as long as we still have COVID going around,
I just got over COVID again, so it's definitely not
exactly
over.
Black women and girls are the most vulnerable to that, not only because we have the highest stress levels, but because we are least likely to be able to go to the doctor to get the resources, to have the time, and then to be able to get diagnosed correctly, and then to get medicine that actually works for our bodies. We are least likely over and over again. And as long as policy continues to focus on who is most likely and try to take away from someone who is most likely, or give something to someone who is at the top of whatever, we will continue to miss Black women and girls' needs. And we will continue to see it lose our lives, lose our livelihood from that.
Now yes. And so you're talking about, at 19 years old, you're talking about some very heavy, challenging issues that, for some of us, as we have been in this a while and what have you, it can it's a lot. It's a lot, especially when you find yourself having the same conversations year after year after year and trying to still get, sort of change. So as you're 19 and sort of have all this beautiful, fresh energy to address these things, how do you make sure that you are restoring that energy or creating space for yourself to experience joy and to experience all the other things that life has for you?
Yeah, I think that is really hard for me. It's something that going to a school that is super academically demanding and just takes up a lot of time, and it's something that I don't want to miss also, like while balancing my work. Like I hate being off campus sometimes, and like I have so many great things I can do and do outside of this place, but there's also so many things that I benefited from just like being here at the right place, right time, like meeting someone, like having, you know what I mean? That there's
Oh,
so much,
absolutely.
like college is the place for randomly great things to happen to you. So when I leave, I always feel so like, even though I shouldn't. So for me, like I struggle with anxiety and depression, and I speak very openly about the need for mental health advocacy, which I'm sure like you understand and know.
Fully.
Yeah.
I struggle with anxiety as well. So I understand it. Yeah.
Exactly. And anxiety is just, I think it's really hard for me. Like when I disappoint myself, like if I start off my day and I disappoint myself, I get really stuck. And I put a lot of pressure. I think that all like the pressure that I talk about and deal with is from myself.
Yeah.
And that's very hard to deal with as like the truth. But like my parents did not put pressure on me like about my grades as a kid. Like they never did. Like that was always me. Like I was always the reason why I was crying about my homework, or like, you know what I mean? Like,
but to a degree, I'll tell you, to a degree, you know, maybe, you know, and everything's about balance. So maybe, you know, you'll find that balance, but to a degree, you have to realize that that essence is such a blessing, and it's not in everyone. And because so many people are trying to find that thing that pushes them to drive them to do what they want to or need to do in a day, and everything, not if it ain't authority, if it ain't parents, it's circumstances have gotten to a way to now force them to now do certain things. So the fact that you have that, you know, balance it a little bit,
yes,
but it's a
absolutely.
good thing. Yeah.
No, totally. I think that like my passion is like, and my ambition is something that I'm incredibly like, I feel so great about overall, but it's something that also like, I have to control that voice. Like now that I know that that voice is my own, that it was never someone being like, you can't do it. You like, I never had people in my ear like that I feel like I need to prove things to outside of myself. So it's just like by managing those goals, by really actually always working towards the things you want for yourself, and like realizing that you have to always make the healthy choice and like always make the choice for a better you and for future you, is hard to do when you're 19 years old. So it's just like literally the practice of doing it is really hard. Like now that I know that if it like the kind of the simple answer is like always like think about what you want and what you need and like be intentional. That's like the pretty much the answer to like my anxiety and like the problems that I face. But then when you actually get in the moments to do it, it's always harder than you think it's going to be. So it's just like literally every day trying like step by step to just like do what I want more and like listen to my body more and like trust my gut more and just like say yes, say no. Like it is literally like moment by moment. Like I had times today where I did the opposite of that, and I had times today where I was like on fire, killing it with how intentional I was feeling and how like in control of everything I was feeling, and just proud of myself. So it's just that navigation. And it's tough for sure, but it's something that like I know I do have hope, and I used to not have hope. I think if you talked to me very recently, like in the summer before this year, I was not feeling as like able to do that, or even like wanting to figure out what exactly I needed to do. But now I know, and I've like decided, and it feels different because you also feel like the stakes are higher when you are working towards something for yourself, and you've actually decided that you're changing your mind. Like actually deciding that you've changed your mind on how you want to live your life is really scary, but is also like, if I'm doing that now, I have like a lot of time to mess up on that. So it's okay. Like I have time to get better at it and get worse at it. And that's like the point. So we're going to do that.
I'm glad that you have that perspective now, because again, a lot of people feel like they got one shot, like it's Eminem. You got one shot. That's all you got.
It's like
no. Plus, you have plenty of time to sort of figure that out. One thing I would say to you, because you have such. I just love your energy, number one, and I hope that you are spreading that energy all around campus and just sort of influencing in all the most positive ways the people in your environment. What I would love to like sort of offer you is just that both that space of giving yourself that grace, but I loved that you a couple times the way you mentioned and talked about your life as a practice, or talked about, I'm practicing that. That is in essence, and as a Buddhist, this is no opportunity wasted. And this podcast comes from my sort of Buddhist, Nichiren Buddhist sort of lens. And a lot of what we talk about and work on is about folks truly just being able to see themselves clearly, see their value clearly, so they're not projecting or looking for value outside and what have you, but to also see their capacity and the capacity of others clearly, and to understand that is you are a bright person and you are so smart, but each day you have a certain capacity, and every day, just because you're human, that capacity is going to look slightly different.
Yeah, that's honestly, that's like, oh, you sound like my mom. It's just like I have this conversation with her every day. She's like, some days it's just not going to be the day.
It's not going to. Yes, I love that. It's not going to be the day, but as long as you know your energy, as long as you know that you're showing up the best you can in that moment. And what I mean by the best you can is that, I tell people, whether you're having an anxiety episode or whether you're, and that affects how productive you can be in that day. If you trip and fall and twist your ankle a little bit, and now you've got to, walk a mail route, to deliver mail. Well, you still can deliver that mail and do the job, but it's okay to recognize you're doing that with a little bit of a broken foot or a little bit of less energy or whatever it is, without looking at that as a detriment to who you are.
Exactly. I think that my struggle is definitely taking my harder days as representations of who I am, and being scared that I've like changed, or I'm not as sharp as I once was, or I'm not who I think I am. And in reality, it is about those shifting capacities. But that's something that is definitely hard as a college student to like be aware of or even think about, because you're asked to do like the same thing consistently as well for 13 weeks straight. You know what I mean? It's like the challenge is like literally be exactly who we accepted for these 13 weeks, get your A's, do great, be smart, sign up for everything, and then leave. Yeah. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like it genuinely feels like a race against the clock every semester to sort of like prove to yourself that you can do it, because it always is surreal, at least, to go to Harvard. And I think that like many seniors still, like I know, still say like it's very weird, and it remains very weird. So like sometimes you wake up here and you're like, literally, where am I? And like, why does this matter? It's like so snowy and cold and weird. Like, like in other days you're like, oh my God, like Obama might be here today, and this is like the most beautiful place that I could ever go. Like it just depends on the day. So it is totally about that. So recognizing the fact that we bring something different to our lives every day, but our joy is what always can stay the same, and our ability to fight for our joy.
That's amazing. Okay, so one more question I'm going to ask you. Like, so you mentioned earlier, just as you were talking about yourself, you threw out queer in there as an identity. Mm-hmm. What did the transition look like for you, going from not identifying, not maybe having an awareness, to being in a place where you're comfortable identifying as queer?
I mean, for me, like, this is very silly, but I'm like wearing a suit on the cover of my book. I think anyone that didn't know, like, now you know. I don't know. So like I feel like I've always known who I was. My parents, my mom is a Jamaican immigrant and was definitely raised in a place that did not have the same ideas on, like the only book she had read until she was 13 primarily was like the Bible, and her like perspectives and experiences were super, opposite of like how she feels now. And I think that like her being able to make that transition before I was born, and like as a mom, her doing that work, and my dad, her similarly like taking my dad on that journey, like before I even existed or was an idea, is what allows me to just like be who I am. I've never like felt the need to come out. I never did come out, or like will. Maybe this for some people will be considered that.
Right.
But like it doesn't really matter to me. And if it matters to you, like that's kind of weird. I'm 19, not going to be with you. Like, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's no big deal. Like, it's just it's just as much a part of like the importance of the work that I do, because the fact that like, especially like for some people that don't know, like, or don't think about my sexuality, or maybe like now will or have as I've grown, it's interesting to like think about the fact that I'm fighting for like Black girl books, but the fact that I'm also like a queer woman sort of just speaks to the importance of having stories within stories. That like, even as I'm collecting books for this one narrative, I'm trying to create space for us to recognize that there are different types of Black experiences, and that like my experience is both as like not being generationally African American, or being queer, or being like being an only child, or having like two, or having parents that, you know, like having these like some parents from one parent from another country, one parent not, like there are sub experiences and relationships and stories that all need to be told.
Absolutely.
And even if you didn't know like my sexuality, you've connected with the idea that like we all need to be the main characters of our own lives. So if you choose to take that fact back after finding out my sexuality, that proves that you are not working to, like, you do not fundamentally believe in what I believe in, if that matters to you. So that's like always been the thing to me. It's like, nobody really asks me. And I am fine with that. And I like the relationship that people have with like prying more into, you know, who I am.
Absolutely.
But I also think that, yeah, like I appreciate that there's very much has been a boundary. But I think that as I've gotten older, it is important to me to just like dress. I've always dressed how I want. And I think the things I write in my book about clothes and expression really are like ideas on queer liberation that I've always just like grown up around, like just literally be who you are. Like RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? Like I've been hearing that every night before I go to bed since I was 12. Like I'm hip. You know
so
what I
you're,
mean?
You're
yeah,
on
exactly.
Drag Race. I grew up watching it. I mean, grew up, but you know, I watched it too for a while, but just, it's so wonderful to know that folks in your generation were like kind of, you know, we're into that show as well.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So like, I think that exploring queer culture has been a huge part of like my own desire to fight for liberation, because I'm a part of communities. I see this, I've seen how this experience unfolds and learn the histories of both people who like don't look like me, but also are like me. And it's been interesting to play with like queer liberation and like racial liberation and think about how those two mechanisms and histories have functioned differently. So I love being queer. I have yet to go to a Pride in New York, which I'm very sad about.
Wow.
So that's I know.
Well, listen.
I have to make it happen. I did go to DragCon my freshman year. I went to DragCon, and that
how was that?
It was so fun. I met Monet Exchange, met Bob.
I love Monet.
I love
Bob the drag queen. Yeah, I love those girls.
I love those girls. Oh my God. I met Trixie Mattel. It was like amazing. It was amazing. So,
that's amazing. So, okay. I said one last question, but one more question. So you wrote a book.
Marley Dias gets it done, and so can you.
So you wrote a book, and you're in a campaign to gather or collect these books by Black, or is it, can you explain the campaign, and is it still going on right now?
Absolutely. So the 1000 Black Girl Books campaign is an initiative I started in 2015. I was 10 years old, and I noticed that the books in my 5th grade classroom did not have any Black girls as the main character in any of the books that we were assigned to read. And I thought about, you know, I go to a public school, my parents, and I have my room is full of books, and I have access to these stories. I've seen myself as the main character, but there are 30 other kids in this class. And like, what does it mean if their parents are not putting that intentional effort to show them my story? How does that affect the way we build community at the school, and like what we are actually learning as like, who can be the hero, who can be who's the pretty girl, who's the, you know, the bad guy? Like all of these narratives are really important. So I was having conversation with my mom over pancakes when I was in 6th grade, and I told her I was sick of reading about white boys and their dogs. And she told me, what are you going to do about it? So since then, the goal started as collecting 1,000 books, which was a huge number for me as a 10, 11-year-old. And now over the past 9 years, I've collected 14,000 books with Black girl protagonists and donated them to schools across the United States and in Haiti, Ghana, Jamaica, and received donations from all over the world. So this work is really about making sure that kids can be the main characters of their own lives, and along with creating a free online resource guide and database of the titles of these books, so that teachers, educators, and caregivers can't say that they're not out there, and we can support, you know, independent Black authors who are telling these stories but aren't always able to get into public school curriculums or are not like classic books. And if it's not considered literature, sometimes it can be really hard to get these stories out here. So 1000 Black Girl Books is a campaign that is still ongoing. I'm planning to do a book donation in March, in May, my bad.
I'm going to look through my books for you. I'm going to look through my books to see what I got.
Please do. So we've been continuing to collect books, and the work has expanded a lot. Now I feel like I've just sort of come to become a figure within education and within like this idea of representation in media, which I'm really happy about. And I intend to just continue to explore this idea of like, what does it mean for kids to lead? What does it mean for the the voices that we see in the margins or in the corners to come to the center. And how can we get more people who are not like us to think with us and to share with us, and finally rebuild some of the wounds of what not knowing our own histories and not knowing one another's histories has done to American politics, and honestly, just like the way we treat each other in this world.
Wow, that's amazing. So what type of experience are we going to have when we start reading your book?
You're going to love it. It's for kids, so it's very cute, and it definitely sounds like a 12-year-old wrote it. It's like meant to be really cute because the book is sort of designed for kids to, like, if you don't like to read, you can still buy it for a kid who doesn't like to read.
Oh,
because they can look at the pictures, or they can look at the resource guide, or they can look at the small little like tidbits we have in the design and layout, instead of like feeling like you have to engage with every part of the story. Because there's some people that only want to know about activism. Some parents just want to know, like, how does this kid exist and why does she do all these things at 10? Some people want to know, why does she dress like that? Why is she wearing a suit and she's a 10-year-old girl? So there's all those questions are answered in the book. And I'm so glad that it exists, and that moment, like I'm happy that it always reminds me how far I've come. And I'm happy that I did it, because it's really hard at times to think about how I could have never ever imagine what my life is like now. And in that moment, I thought that was like the craziest life could ever be.
I just want to encourage you to keep going and keep doing your thing and keep teaching us, because one thing I will affirm for you is that being so young, there's so many of us who don't value what we can be learning from you and from your generation, and from your fresh perspectives. And, it's not always about a library of knowledge. It's about what you do with that knowledge and not just sitting on it. So I can't wait to see what you do with all the knowledge that you're gaining at Harvard.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Is there anything else you want to share with us before we go?
No, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm really happy. I think that always having, like, every conversation I have nowadays, the world keeps changing so fast that I feel like I say more and get to express more of who I am and bringing those things to conversation. So I'm really happy I've finally got the chance to talk to you. And I hope that listeners get to enjoy learning more about me and what it means to balance both. I'm really happy.
They definitely will. You are a rock star, and I just know that you are going to make our world a better place. So thank you in advance.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. We'll be right back.
All right. Thank you again, Marley Dias, for just, being so willing to use your life, your young life, when you could be doing so many different things. But you're showing us all how you can take responsibility for your generation and respond to the things that are going around you, while also saving time to have fun. So thank you again. And thank you also to Kelly Hayes and Miriam Kaba. I think that's how you say it, but the authors of Let This Radicalize You. Because it's because of this book that I was reminded that there are many reasons why people are not speaking up, famous or not. For a lot of folks, they see things for exactly how they are and are understandably opting out because they recognize at the present moment they don't feel like they have enough power to change anything about that, especially when they're just trying to figure out how to change their own lives. So with that, I will leave you with this Buddhist breadcrumb. In Nichiren Buddhism, we say Buddhism is reason. So if it's not reasonable, it ain't Buddhism. This week, exert yourself and go hard for the things that you care about, but with reason. Recognize moments where you can be more reasonable with yourself and with others. No opportunity wasted.